G, wherever you are in the world. We are joined here by crypto OG, fellow trench warrior atareh, who I've been friends with for quite some time. atareh, first of all, brother, welcome to the show and thanks for joining me today, brother.
Hey, glad to be on. I said it earlier, but I haven't streamed in over a year, and I streamed for almost 2 years. So it's nice to be back on in front of the camera.
We were just talking offline before, and you just had a banger. I was going to bring this up later, but a banger interview with Farouk recently. Bro, how was that from being out of the saddle for a while streaming to sitting down with one of the big dogs in the industry?
Well, I mean, the way that it was even set up was I didn't really have any intention to, but we met at an event and we'd obviously talk like back and forth over Twitter every now and then. We weren't super close, but just in the public on the timeline. And he asked me what I'm up to, and I mentioned I'm getting really into like long form podcasting. And not just like the standard like show whatever you're doing, but more like let's talk human to human. And he was really enthusiastic. He was like, "Oh, I'd love to come on." And then it was like offer timings and all that. So it was great to get that buy-in, even just with the concept, because I was like, "Here's the concept that I'm trying to do." And I've done a couple with like one of my friends, Raheem, and so that was great. And then actually sitting down, it's kind of like I feel like every one of us has watched so many podcasts at this point, where it's like if we were going to do a podcast, we kind of know who we would be in like the archetype of like the big podcasters. There's like the Rogans, I'm trying to remember who else, like Andrew Schultz with Flagrant. There's Theo Vaughn. Like there's all these characters that we know and they all have their own style, and it's like I think we all probably like at some level kind of in for which would be our style or which would we like to do. So that's kind of like where it started from. And then I built it out, the interview, the flow, and like I like in hindsight as well. Like I rewatched it obviously because I edited it. I loved the way that it flowed. I loved like the like where I was able to take the conversation, and then I can get things out of Farouk that like maybe other people haven't, or maybe it's like somebody that like maybe there's been topics that have been not off limits per se, but like nobody wants to like broach that. But I was kind of like, okay, if I'm going to get somebody on, I want to talk about things that nobody else has seen. It's like, how can I show somebody in a new light, or like so they can discover them a little bit more and get to know them. So
Yeah, I agree. One of the things I try to think about when I speak to people, including yourself, is exactly that. Like, I want to get to know them as a person because for getting to know them, kind of, I like to see what makes people tick. I think is probably more what I'm getting at. I'm fascinated with people, so it's kind of like there's nothing better than getting someone on, especially live. It's very intimidating, and I don't know. Like, big shout outs to you. You've been doing it for a while, and I wanted to introduce how I know you, which we'll go to in a sec. But that interview you did with him was a fucking banger, dude. It was clean as fuck. So shout out, first of all, shout out for I know how hard it is to do that. I'm not at that stage yet, and you hit the nail on the head with how we look at Rogan or Theo Vaughn and how we want to run it. And the more I've started streaming like this, the more I've realized how fucking good those guys are, man.
mm-hmm.
Like especially Joe Rogan. I mean, I know easy to obviously, right? But when you actually try and do it, it's like fuck. No wonder that guy's on the big bucks, bro. Because to flow like that is hard, especially live. Can be quite
Yeah,
scary.
and almost with like what's so impressive about Rogan is that it's almost with anybody they can just
Yeah,
flow to whatever topic, and it's just like
all
it's
sides of
like
the
bang, bang,
spectrum.
bang, bang, bang. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
red,
really, it's really
blue,
impressive.
whatever. But I wanted to give Atara, I wanted to give a bit of a background for the viewers out there, um, about a little bit about, I suppose, how we know each other and a little bit about who you are. Because I kind of feel like for probably the last year, you kind of went quite quiet, whereas
Yeah.
you were front and center. And I'm going to go over that now. So the way I know Atare was I came into crypto 21, got into Bitcoin. I'm not going to talk too much about myself. Don't worry, Atare. And
No,
then
no, no.
got
I'm just I'll say one quick thing. One thing I don't like is not like, but like you would see it is that when somebody you can see when somebody's not looking at the screen anymore. But
the reason, so I try not to do it when I'm being interviewed, but the reason I'm doing it right now is because I'm just sharing the live stream link with everybody. So
Oh, no,
hopefully
you're
we're gonna
good,
get
bro.
your attention to that.
Yeah, I do
Yeah,
know
yeah,
what
yeah.
you mean. When
We're good.
someone's
We're
on
good.
their phone, and you're like,
Yeah,
motherfucker,
you could tell. You could tell when somebody tabs off.
I come back.
And yeah, yeah, but don't worry. I was like, let me send this out to some people, and
Nah,
let me
good
retweet
man.
it, and now we're good.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so we met, would have been through 10 KTF. I think that would have been the first time we came across each other. And atareh was a pretty prominent figure there already, I'd say. And then I came in, I was fairly fresh. And then that, look, great project. You actually ended up becoming quite prominent there. You were doing live streams through that. Well, what did you call it back then? What was that called again?
It was that was called the Damn Show.
The Damn Show. That's right. With maybe
Yeah,
Netta. Shout
yeah,
out
yeah,
to
yeah.
her. So we're going back a while. So I knew you in NFTs, and then you and I kind of progress. Well, I don't know if progression's the word, but moved from NFTs kind of to the trenches to memes. And you were always kind of, I feel like, building in the background where I was more just talking about projects. You were, I think, getting more involved with projects. You were one of the captains with 10KTF. I was actually in your team, which
Oh, nice,
yeah, I was
nice.
actually so in 10KTF there were three factions, I think,
Yeah,
or captains, and atareh was one of the captains who got a
my
PFP.
man.
It was
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
cool, dude. So I joined atareh's
yeah.
team. So lucky I joined his team because I've got him on today, so I can actually say I was loyal. But I guess I wanted to say, give me what I wanted to do is well, that's kind of how we kind of knew each other. You know, you have been an OG in the space. I've always admired your work, and you were quite different to me in that I think I'm quite, look, I don't know if I'm right here, but pretty ADHD. I'm pretty hyperactive. I'm loud. I swear a lot. My energy's high. I'm not saying yours isn't, but I always found you're a calm presence for me. You're very calm. Well,
Yeah,
I don't know if you feel calm inside, but I find you quite calm. So you and I think, are quite a good little match in that regard. But I always kind of admired you from the point of view you never really let the space. I never really saw you get mad or too upset, which I thought was quite cool. You're quite slow, methodical. You had really good knowledge, and you didn't really speak out of turn. And I noticed you weren't really into drama, which I resonated with. I'm not either. I'm too old. Well, it's my age, bro. I'm 40. I've got a kid. I've got an 8-year-old. I've got enough drama about, yes, you can't do that and that. So I don't want to do that with the
yeah,
kids on the timeline. So that's what I liked about you. But what I wanted to do is kind of let's get to know you. So one of the things I found really interesting was when I was listening to your Farouk chat. You were an immigrant as well. You guys left your home. I think it was your mum, dad, and was it 5 of you kids in a 2-bedroom place and you moved to Canada? Was that the
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
that
the
was the setup.
basic story? Very similar to my story. So that's why I wanted to kind of touch on it, because we were the same. We left South Africa in times of strife back when I was 12. We immigrated, just mum, dad, and my sister and I. So, but it's fairly similar to you in the fact that and this is what I want to get on, is how that kind of builds resilience
hmm
and drive and determination. So, look, I just wanted to go through. Talk me through those days. Like, I know what it's like to be an immigrant in a country when you speak weird. It's not the easiest. You're not accepted very quickly with kids, especially with children. Man, you get pumped, right? So, run me through, like, what's a young atareh's life? You guys immigrate. You go to Canada. I just want to kind of get a background story on what built you, really.
yeah. I think like
It's in hindsight, you look at like the story, and there's like that. I would say there's like that, that setup of like the classic immigrant story. And I think a lot of people resonate with like that story specifically because they all have their own version of it. You have your own version of it. Farouk had his version of it. But I think it was like, I was 5, 6 years old, call it, and I had some memories of like growing up in Abu Dhabi in the desert. But like coming to Canada was kind of just like I was young enough that like I never had any issues like with English per se because it's like I learned very quickly when you're so young.
Yeah.
You just pick it up. I don't even remember like consciously like learning English. If you like, and I knew some obviously in like Dubai and UAE, so like that wasn't too much of an issue. But I think it was like growing up in like the 2000s, 2010s. There was like it's like I would say one of the most like defining things that happened was like 9/11 because that was
Yeah.
really like that was such I was 9 years old and that was such like an inflection point of like somebody that looks like me or like has my background was treated in North America and I think
I actually think that like as time goes on, there's going to be more and more people like me as we get older, we get more established in our careers. We're going to be able to talk about like what growing up in that environment felt like, where it was like, you know, the like the villains in the movies looked like you, for example, right? Like it's like it's got like this. It's you don't really understand it until you're older, but it puts a little dynamic in your brain, and I think probably growing up, I had definitely like I would say a little bit of chip on my shoulder for like just growing up with like that in the background always.
Yeah.
But I'd say like that like but that's not like a like it's not like any sort of like a struggle by any means. It's more just like that was it's the reality, and you realize that as you get older, you're like, oh yeah, wow, that actually impacted me and the people around me in a lot of different ways. So yeah,
I remember. I mean, one of the reasons I brought that up, it's interesting you brought up 9/11. I actually remember you talking about that in group chats once, and that was interesting to me because I actually hadn't thought about that. You know, being the color I am, all those things. You don't always understand what it's like in someone else's shoes. But what was also interesting for me is this story might be surprising to some people, but me leaving South Africa, we left when apartheid just ended, right?
right. This was
Right.
in the 90s, right?
Yeah, in the 90s. So about
Yeah.
oh God, what was it? 93, 94? I should know, but I was young, but it's around there. And what's interesting is that I had a similar experience to you in that what I mean is we were one of the first, I think, South Africans we moved to New Zealand. So what's interesting is my mum and dad were actually picking between Canada and New Zealand. And they ended up going to New Zealand. I always had a bit of a gripe about this because I fucking wish they'd picked Canada, dude, because obviously the States, the land of opportunity. When I was a kid, I thought, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But my mum had a dream. She's a bit of a hippie like that, and she dreamt of a green sea, and New Zealand's got a semi-green sea, so we ended up going there. But one of the things I resonated with you was I had a similar experience, and that was I was one of the first South Africans that anyone ever met. Now, all that anybody knew about South Africans is apparently we don't like anyone of color. Now, that couldn't be further from the truth because about 99% of people in South Africa hated apartheid. So we were all under a regime. And then when I left, one of the first things I'd ever have said to me, because obviously moving to New Zealand, they're a melting pot of color. There's some Samoans, Maldives, you got some big Pacific Islanders, and I'm a little scrawny white boy, right? And I go to school, and I remember meeting this dude. It was a 12-year-old guy, and it was the first person I've ever seen with a beard. He was 12 years old with a beard, and I was like, this guy's massive. And he came up to me and goes, are you South African? I was like, yeah. And he goes, oh, you guys are racist, eh? That was the first thing he said to me.
Wow.
First of all, I'm thinking, holy shit, no, I'm not. And second of all, this guy's going to punch the shit out of me. Luckily, he didn't. But I soon realized that people had a really distorted view of what I was, what my family was, what South Africans were. And so it was a challenge. And just hearing you say that chip on your shoulder, that was something I carried for a long time. And I found I then what I did was I overcompensated and I heavily defended South Africa to almost, you know, and I don't know if you ever did that, but you go to bat for the team in a way and you're like, fuck, why am I even batting for this team? It's not even my team anymore in a way, but you just don't want the wrong message to get across, especially racism. That's like the opposite of what I ever feel, especially coming from a country where I've seen that used to divide and conquer. It's the opposite of I'm much evolved since then. But it was very similar. So I found that interesting with you and me. But one of the things I found really interesting, dude, when I was trying to learn a bit about you was, right, you've gone through schooling there, you've gone through high school, and then, and I have linked this in the chat, is I went to your link tree and I found you were a molecular scientist at one point. So I was what the actual hell? I was like, for one, I've never spoken to you about that. Two, I've got a science degree, so it kind of was interesting to me. I love science. I love the purity of it. I love numbers and science. It's, you know, I don't know. You probably know what I'm saying. You just either you resonate with it or you don't. My wife can't stand it. I love it. But what I wanted to ask you is okay, you've left high school. How did that happen? How do you get into molecular science? And then from there, how do you go from there to Web3?
Yeah. Well, there's a few hops that we have to take. One, it was, so it goes from high school to
in undergrad it was like biological science.
That goes into a master's in molecular science, and I was going to originally do a PhD in that because I wanted to be a professor. I like the teaching aspect of things.
Yeah.
But like I realized at some point, and I talked about it a little bit in the pod as well, where I realized that it was like the incentives of like what I thought a professor was versus what they actually are, especially in science, are very different realities. And so, mostly in the sense of like you like even if you love teaching, you'll end up hating it because it's not your moneymaker. It's the thing that the university will say, oh, you don't have to teach biochemistry anymore because you got this really big grant. So it's like you have to be in your office, asking the government, hey, give me money, please. Like, and I was like, I don't think that that's the life that I want, or that doesn't excite me. So that's where I switched from like instead of going to PhD, I went into tech. So I had my own startup at the time. I was running that for a little bit, then moved into like other startup roles when I sunsetted that, rose up, and I would call it like a technical product manager, where it's like I would understand the technology and how do we build this like system. And so like I'd say the last thing that I helped build with a team of devs was like think like a Shopify but for pharmacies. So it's like this company started just before the pandemic, like maybe 6 months before, but it was like if you want to like connect a patient to a doctor who then goes to sends that prescription to a pharmacy and then the pharmacy delivers it to you. How do you create that like telehealth experience? And so I had to figure out how to do that and build like HIPAA compliant systems where we're storing patient data and all this crazy stuff. So we built that, and then it was actually when I went to Bitcoin Miami in 2021 where I switched and realized that I'm not fully happy with what I'm even doing now. It's a good job, all that stuff, but it was like I was like, I think I can go full time in crypto, and I was already involved in crypto at that point. But I was like, I think I can go full time, and I went full time end of summer, August of 2021, and that's when a couple of weeks after is when like 10K ETF even launched. But my only mandate was I'm going to start writing on Twitter, and I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out the rest. I have savings. I'll use that, and like let's just see what happens. And like it's been a crazy journey. 3 years now, almost, maybe 4. So.
Yeah, that was the exact same as me. It was February 21, and I quit my job. I was doing. I was in a startup. We were building little houses, granny flats, and things like that. And I'd built up the company and the sales team and all that, and kind of I'd pushed it as far as I knew my limitations could push it. It needed someone bigger, stronger, more driven to take it to the next step. So I was the same as you. I got into Web3, no parachute, had some savings, and exact same as you. I was like, I'm just going to start this and figure it out. Where in the past, I've been much more of a procrastinator. I don't know what sort of person you are, but I always wanted the perfect launch. And I'm a perfectionist. So I was always stuck in the mud with launching, but that's one of the times I'm glad I just went, F it, I'm just going to do this and figure it out. So it sounds like you did the same thing. I wanted to ask you, how did you first find crypto? Like even before you got into it to work, there's normally similar stories. How did you first? Was it Bitcoin you found first or heard about first? And how did you find whatever it was?
Yeah, so there's I feel like everybody has a version of the story, but I would say the first time I heard about it was like probably like 2012, 2013. Yeah. But like I heard about it. Like I was like, oh, this is interesting. Yeah. But I remember I was just starting that master's in 2014. So this was 11 years ago now. I was like 21, 22, and I heard that you could earn money mining Bitcoin, and I'm like, oh, okay. I know it's like you're a broke grad student, you're just out of university. You're like, okay, cool, yeah. So I was like, okay, I find guides of how to do it, and and like I realized that like to get a node, and I was trying to do it on my MacBook. It started downloading the whole Bitcoin blockchain for that. And this was like 80, not even 80, like I think 120 gigabytes, something ridiculous. My MacBook had a memory of like 100 gigabytes or something like that. Yeah. And I realized like, because I'd like, oh, let me download this thing. I, do it. I go to sleep. I wake up and it's like 60 gigabytes or 50 gigabytes downloaded. And I realized, oh, I'm not going to have enough space for this. And so I was like, okay, cancel it. Actually, 1 year before that, I was like in fourth year of university, I was like trying to figure out how to buy Bitcoin, and I'd set up a wallet and like I had like $200, $300. I was like,
I feel like I should just buy it and whatever. It didn't end up happening, and so all those instances just didn't end up going through. It wasn't until 2017 where one of my friends told me that he had, and so at the time he told me,
oh, he's doing crypto. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. It's like Bitcoin. And he's like, oh no, but there's a lot more now.
You know, his ICOs and all that. I was like, whoa. And he told me, and at that time, it's like he was my age, and he's like, oh yeah, my portfolio is 100K.
And I was like, 100,000. That number, that amount was just
wild to me. I couldn't even fathom. I'm like, you're my age and you have $100,000.
Yeah,
this is insane. I was like, okay, you got to teach me. I get in, and like
that was when I just started like my first like sales job as well. Just started like my master's, and I was making, I don't know, like probably like 12. Oh, still here? I cut out for a sec.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, I was like I'd making like $2,000 a month, and I was taking like $1,000 and like trying to put that into crypto. And this was like December of 2017, so this was like the top had already happened, and like it was only downhill from there. And so I ended up owing a friend like some money, had to put it together and like get him
the money back. But that was when I first heard about it. The second time around, which is when I was like properly in and actually had the proper money to do an investment, that was 2020. That summer, fall. So I discovered NFTs in like
September, October 2020. Not that really thing. December, bought Top Shots, forgot about them completely, bought them for $30. And
so did I. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Still got them, man. I haven't even bothered trying to fucking sell it.
It was actually,
so I bought, I think 2 packs for like, $20-$30.
I think we must have all bought those, eh? I think everyone who was, I wasn't early, I was 21, but it was my early. I think everyone had that initiation. It's funny. So sorry, keep going. Yeah, Top Shots.
Yeah. There was the first NFT I bought was I think in October of 2020, and I can't remember what it was.
Did that.
Bought Top Shots, forgot about them, and I just bought them just because I was like, oh, this is interesting. Let me buy it. Didn't look at them again.
Yeah.
Assumed they were going to go to zero. I checked back 2 months later. Each of them are worth like $400 to like $600.
Oh yeah.
I had like 10 of them.
So I thought there was no liquidity as well. So like I sold, I placed them for sale. They instantly sold because I like if the floor was like, let's say like 1,200 or 1,000, I put it out like 900 because I was like, there's no way anybody's
just
gonna
get rid of it, eh? Just get rid of it.
Yeah. I was like, let me like, there's no way anybody's gonna buy this.
And they did.
Immediately. And they did like instantly, and I was like
real money, like, kind of real.
I was like, wait, I have like 6K now. I'd use that money
like to like the next week.
I got laser vision correction. Just use all that money immediately. Got my eyes great. Like, yeah. Just an instant like boom.
Like life hack, life improvement, great decision, and then that's when you start buying NFTs, you start doing all the other stuff as well. So. At that point, I'd already invested a bunch in like Bitcoin and Ethereum just to have like
from before the run started. So like
Bitcoin was probably like
5-6K. Ethereum was like I think $100, something like that.
Yeah, I remember. It's funny you talk about those early days. I remember in 2017, I was working a sales job then, and I remember a couple of the more forward-thinking staff I worked with would come in every morning. My manager and the owner of the company, manager of the company, they'd sit down every morning, or you'd come in and go, "Have you seen the price of Ethereum?" And or have you seen the price of this? And it was like they were talking another language, but it was the same as you. The moment the penny dropped, shout out to that guy. He's a mega multimillionaire. He's opened up a massive app for fitness, actually. So shout out to Adam Sullivan, friend of mine. But he was the one who was coming and talking about Ethereum, and that's when it opened my eyes. Because same as you, he showed me his portfolio on the screen, and it was tens of thousands of dollars. And I was like, man, I would have been lucky to have $5,000 in my bank. Like, I was kind of living paycheck by paycheck, still buying nice shoes or whatever, dressing, kind of trying to dress nice, like we all did in our 20s, trying to, impress girls or other guys. I don't know what I was doing, but young guy stuff. And I was like, holy fuck, this guy's got like 50K. I was like, that's fucking incredible. How do you do that? And he was like, oh, I made money on Ethereum and here and here and here. So that's what kind of was my moment as well, where I went, okay, this is kind of real. Like, I know
Right.
it's numbers on a screen, but it's still real. And I was like, oh, can you pull the money out? And he was like, yeah, through CoinSpot. I was like, okay, fuck, I gotta. And interesting enough, though, that wasn't the moment I got in, though. It took me 4 more years after that chat to then come across. But what it required for me to come across was for me to hate my job enough to.
Got it.
So I needed pain to push me, like most people do. Pain's a very good motivator. So I required pain rather than pleasure to move. So luckily I did. And it sort of ended up here. Now, so I guess for you, so what your introduction was Bitcoin, and then was your transition Top Shot. Top Shot was your getting your feet wet in NFTs, and then were you kind of straight into NFTs from that moment where you're like, yeah, these are great?
I think so. I would say it was Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin. You know,
Litecoin, yeah,
like,
brilliant.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, right.
Some of that stuff, and then exactly. That was like probably 2020 fall, and then NFTs were fun. And so, quick story. Do you remember Foundation? I think they're still around. It's like auction. Yeah. So before they had like the one-of-one auction platform, they had this thing where they would sell editions for NFTs, and so an artist would drop like 20 editions, and these things would sell on a bonding curve. So it would be like, you know, first 5 are the cheapest, and then it would ramp up. And I remember me and my friend Ape to launch by this Montreal artist. We got in pretty early. We were like, if there's 20 editions, we got like edition 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And like 2-3 hours later, or like 6 hours later, at the end of the workday, check, and like I could sell that thing that I just bought for $100 for $600.
Yeah, man.
And I sold it instantly. I was like, oh, boom, money.
Smart.
And yeah, exactly. So that was like the pair of like, oh, NFTs. And I remember telling some of my friends as well that were digital artists. I have like DMs from them from like December 2020 being like, no, NFTs are real. They're like, yeah, but it's just an image, it's just a JPEG. And I, you know, that whole narrative, I went through that with them. I think that I'm gonna go find those DMs and just like screenshot them, because this was like 2020 December, and I'm explaining, and I'm like, I was explaining to them, like, think about a painting. Where's the value in the painting? Is it the canvas? Is it the frame? Is it the paint? Or is it the idea? You know, just the like really like pushing it out there. And,
I had the same chance with my friends.
Yeah. This is
the new thing. You got to be here. I've got to explain it to you. They're like, dude, you're fucking crazy.
and he eventually did end up getting there, and like maybe, you know, once more of his friends got on board, then he ended up getting like he's like, okay, well, these guys are my artist friends, they're doing it now as well, so maybe I'm missing something. And so he eventually did get on it. But yeah, that, and then it was still dabbling. I was doing like a PooCoin on like Binance Smart Chain. I was doing all of that stuff. And then NFTs in March after the Beeple sale. Summer I took off, and that was a big mistake. Summer I went to Miami.
Yeah.
This is COVID as well, right? So I just in lockdown. Toronto had the longest lockdown in the world. So
I missed I remember Bored Apes minting, and like I saw them maybe for like 0.2, 0.3 ETH, but I was just like, I'm finally getting sun for the first time in God knows how long. I'm getting social like interaction from people, so I need to just
recharge.
Digital, and just like experience Miami, and like, you know, learn a lot about myself in that summer, and like, you know,
that's
what I want to do with my career. But like missed like the Bored Apes. I opened my laptop and I was like, oh my God, why didn't I buy these? And so yeah.
I was the same, bro. I've got a Bored Ape story. We probably all do. I saw them for 0.7. And I remember them minting, and I faded because I just, my mind wasn't quite adjusted yet towards NFTs fully. Fuck it, I wish it was. And then I saw them for 0.7. I remember it clearly. I was sitting, it's a room over there, and I was sitting in a chair, and it was lunchtime. And I've told the story a few times, but I had about 10 of them shortlisted. I had 10 tabs open with 10 of my favorites, and I was going to pick maybe 5 of them I liked. And this is the story of the most expensive sandwich in the world. And my wife was making lunch. She's like, do you want a sandwich? And at that moment, I was hyped to buy them, and I'd convinced myself spending this 3, 4, 5 grand was a good idea.
Right.
And then I went and had lunch with her. And by the time I came back from lunch, you know how sometimes you're hot into something, and then when you leave a situation, you come back, you're like, oh, I had the tabs open. I was like, I'm going to just leave them open a bit. Let me just think about this a bit longer. And I never went back. And lo and behold, years later, or not, sorry, years later, weeks later, / months later, they fucking gigasend from 0.7, I think, to 150. Something like that. So something I could never afford. And I was like, oh my God, I just faded. Anyway, we all faded generational wealth, I think, through there. Some didn't, but I definitely had. That was my Bored Ape story. You had a mutant once upon a time. I also wanted to touch on how did you run me through your experience of that NFT run, because I thought that NFT 21 run was pretty magical. It was loud, explosive, crazy shit happened. What was your experience like? Was it? Oh, sorry, you actually said did you have one actually? Oh, you did. You had the back end after Bored Apes.
Yeah. So I actually, like, it was a few weeks before Mutants minted, because I minted my Mutant.
Oh hell yeah!
I caught it like the number was 939, so I caught it in the first 1,000.
That's cool.
Like a minute after somebody sent the link, I saw it. I was like, "Is this real?" He's like, "Yes."
I bought it, minted it.
Sick.
Yeah.
So you learned your lesson. I did not. I didn't even get a mutant, bro.
You didn't.
Oh, I'm a retard. But yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. No, I was like,
I have to. I was already like itching to get into the club at that point, and because I just thought it was so cool, and like it a lore about them, and like I wrote some threads about like they could be a streetwear brand. There's so many things that they could do with it.
Yes.
So I like, if I'm gonna like, if I summarize that run, I think that run was like, I think it was very formative. Okay.
Yeah.
Very formative, because this was like, call it like my first time running up a portfolio, having it crash, and like really learning those painful lessons of like liquidity is not always going to be around.
Yes.
When it's available, like the old age-old adage of take profit, like constantly, always, and don't look back on it, because I think there's so many things that I held for way too long, and I was like, oh, could go higher, versus just being a methodical trader about it. So for me, it was like really getting to the mindset of a trade, or becoming a trader, more than like, even if I didn't know that's what I was becoming, that's what my brain was starting to like form into, where it was like, yes, this could go, here, but okay, what is it at now? What's your multiple? How can you hedge this? Play the game, and learning about even just the attention dynamics of these things, of like, when the tension is on it, it's going to rip, and when it's not, they're going to crash. And NFTs by the end of the cycle had no attention, and so none of them were worth anything. And I think like the summary was that unfortunate night of the other segment. What a mistake!
It was exactly the same for me. Exactly the same. NFTs for me were a speed run course in market from life to death. If you look at the NFT chart, I guess you could say it might be similar to a stock that's 5 years in age, but an NFT would do the same chart in a month. So you or in a day. And then Memecoins came, which we'll get onto, which was even more rapid. But same.
I mean, we had the classic cook in Chateau with Bone last year. That was awesome.
But yeah,
I will get onto that, because that was awesome times, and that gets me very excited for the rest of this bull run, bro. But yeah, NFTs for me were the same as you. That's where I learned my harshest lessons, but also my best lessons, and those lessons learned there, thankfully and luckily, have allowed me in this bull run to be much better. So for anybody watching now who's watched maybe me from a distance and thinks, fuck, Craig, he seems to do well. A, you don't always see the losses, but B, I had to go through, as a lot of us did, a learning curve that was quite brutal. Where I don't know what, you mentioned portfolio running up. It was the same for me. One of the biggest lessons I learned was in the 21, 22 NFT bull run. I was messaging a mate every day, telling him how much higher my port was. that's an indicator to sell right there when I was doing that. When I'm bragging, I should have been selling. And I remember at one point I ran up my portfolio and it was enough to pay off my house and 2 cars. Yeah, I know. And I held, and by the end of it, it could pay off 1 car. So I went from being 37 years old and having an opportunity to have no mortgage,
Right. Wow.
2 European cars paid for. You know, I could have been comfy. And
Yeah.
greed took over, and I couldn't click sell. And it was a really interesting psychological experience to have, in that how difficult it is to sell in times of euphoria. I just and I guess, have you experienced that yourself? Have you experienced it where back when you were, I guess, in your infancy, where greed just took over and you just couldn't click sell, or were you always quite measured and able to navigate that?
I think so. I think the I think 2021 with NFT specifically, 2022,
that absolutely was true. It was wrote it up, wrote it back down, most of it. Like I'd say, like
by the end of it, it's like 20% of what I had was left.
Yeah.
Call it like mid to high 5 figures, something like
Yeah,
that. It's like I wrote it up all over super high, and then I was just like, oh my god, why didn't I like?
Yeah.
You get up in the morning, you had like your portfolio checker for the for your NFTs. I was using Floor at the time.
Yes.
And
I met the team in New York last year, but super cool guys. And I just look at the number and just like feel nice, and then just go on about your day, see what else is happening in Web3, what mints can you make into. So I did that, but then I would say that I think 2023, given how low liquidity was all of that year, not a lot going on.
Yeah.
And then
that just made me much more, like, I would say, hardened in some sense, where I was like, when liquidity is back, go for it. And let's say bone, like 2024 March, that was like,
I look back on that chart and I am so proud of myself and
how I played that chart.
You nailed it.
I am like, I nailed it. I absolutely nailed it.
I sold too early, bro. I sold too early.
Yeah.
I scaled out. I did okay, but I don't have the I don't have the like Hollywood story, unfortunately, or I don't have a real good one. It was don't get me wrong, it was fantastic, but you killed it.
I got in the pre-sale last minute.
Not last minute, but like Pingu. Shout out to Pingu. He's the one.
Yeah.
And he was just, and he's like,
yeah, he's like, yo, Nifty sent this in Chateau. You should probably send some.
And I sent like a few soul, whatever.
Same. I sent fuck all.
Yeah, exactly.
I was so scared.
Like, oh, sure. Yeah. I was like, oh, no, like,
a whole soul. Yeah.
$500. Oh no. Like, because you're trying to like.
It's like this thing, but
like.
I scaled out as well. It's not that I held everything and I sold the very top, but
the way that I scaled out
as it happened, as it was playing out, I got
really solid like exits.
Yeah.
Like, one in like the 60 to 80 million range, some in like the 200 to like 700 million range, or like 300 to 300 to 800. Some at the very tippy top, nailed those. Some, and the rest were just above 1 billion, and like, just a clean setup. I look at that chart and I'm like, yes, this is how it's done. Yes. This is how
how it's supposed to feel. And so I felt like it wasn't just like the money that came in from that was amazing. It was also like the lesson.
Yeah.
Of like the feeling, like physically going through those 48 hours.
Yeah.
Where you can barely sleep. You get up and you check. And you're just glued to your laptop. You're in a warp. You're in a different. Nobody talk to me. I can't understand anything you're saying because I'm just glued. Because you're reacting to news minute by minute. Oh, Binance listed here. Boom.
Oh, dude, it was just a rush. What a time.
The euphoria was phenomenal. It's funny you say that you couldn't speak to anyone. I had my parents here from overseas when it was happening, and we were away. We were away at an Airbnb, beautiful place on the water. And I had to take my computer along because I was like, guys, I cannot not have my computer here for this. I've got to nail this trade. And I remember, what you just said, for like a day and a half, I was just like guys,
A zombie.
I'm not here right now. I know you guys, I love
Yeah.
you, but I got to work when there's money on the table. And so I
Yeah.
remember that. And God, you were just like locked in, and all the information coming out was just like you just said, Binance listing, and all of us are just like, yes.
Yeah, in Chateau, because I was a Chateau cook. We were all there for that. Yeah.
And what was funny about that is I still go into other groups now, and they still know me as the guy that called that. But I'm not the guy.
Nice.
I mean, I'm the guy that called that in that group. But Nifty, Pingu, I'm not
There's a
the guy.
downstream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, even so, funny to this day, I still go into some groups and like Craig, he's the fucking boom guy. Like, and I'm like, I'd forgotten that ever happened. But other people still really like. Now that I remember, it was obviously massive. But it's just funny how you just get known as that guy for whatever reason. So yeah, that was fucking great. And then I guess so. Run me through. So we went from NFTs, and then we started dipping into meme coins. I suppose what made you decide to move from NFTs to what I felt like was considered a dirty move to start with, moving to meme coins? For those who weren't here, my experience was that meme coins were vaporware. You were pretty scummy for shelling it, and NFT communities frowned upon you for even daring talk about it. Was your experience similar?
100%. I think, and there's some private group chats where people were like raging at Pepe.
Yeah, bro, I got yelled at, and I was like,
and they were like,
no, this is bad, and NFTs are good, and I was like, they're actually kind of all the same thing. Like, do you not see that? And the rage that some people had about it was actually like for me the biggest signal of like, okay, yeah, like
same. There's something here.
This isn't going away because there were different people saying the same things about NFTs.
Bingo.
Like at a time.
Bingo.
So I was like, okay, boom, here we go. Something's happening here. I would say that like it's like 2020 because Pepe was 2023, right?
Yeah. Yeah, which we were all involved in heavily, wasn't it? Shout out Nifty for the call on that, which I'd gone hard.
I wasn't in Chateau at that point, unfortunately. I came in August.
That was a crazy summer that you guys had.
Yeah,
so I wasn't there for that, but I saw. It's like I knew you from 10KTF. So when I joined Chateau, you were in there. But it's like I think the only reason I even was allowed or got into Chateau was I did Nifty being like, hey, like I'm trying to learn.
This is new wave. You obviously just had like Pepe and all that stuff. So
and he knew me from 10KTF
because he was heavily involved in 10KTF. So it was nice to
be able to join Chateau and meet everybody and talk to them
and not get right.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And I think that's like I remember you were always posting your trades in 2023 as well.
Oh yeah. They went well back then. I could have missed then, man. It was so no one missed though.
Dude,
no one missed.
It was in the 10KTF Discord. There's like a little sub channel.
Money for ETH printer, right? ETH printer.
Yeah. I was like, this guy's cooking right now. I was like, I need to like pay attention to Craig Powell right now.
There were 10 X's to 100 X's in there daily. And what was funny about it is I know way more now than I did then about trading, but then I could not miss. But that's how good meme coins were back then. You literally just had to find one good narrative with one good meme, and you 10x'd every time. So it wasn't so much me being a great trader. I guess for me, I was just early to a meta, I suppose, where I won there. But yeah, man, those were good times. It certainly got a lot harder to call meme coins now. So going back to how you found it, so like the transition to NFTs was a bit dirty, and then we had the ETH NFT run, and then it went to Sol, didn't it? Transitioned. And I found you were all over that, really. You were, I think, pretty well established in memes then. I felt you were, as active as me. How have you found it? Run me through your thoughts on this meme coin meta from where it started to now. What are your thoughts on it, the good and the bad? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that, because I think it's a great meta, but there's a lot to it.
Yeah, I think there's like the financial nihilism stuff of like, meme coins are vaporware, or all coins are vaporware. So like
just big dogs and whatever.
And I think that actually has peaked. not in terms of like, and I wrote about this. It's the pin thing on in my profile, but where I say Fartcoin is the final meme coin, because I think like creatively, there's nothing left to do in like the pure vaporware. Like if you think about like meme coins as like a concept, it's like Dogecoin. Oh, the concept is it's a dog and it's like money on the internet, and then Shiba is like the follow up of that. We have dog, we have hat, we have all these like little concepts. It's like, oh, it's funny. We're gonna make this dog with a hat go to billions of dollars, and it's gonna be absurd, right? You have like Popcat, and you have Mog. It's like classic like internet slang, Gen Z slang. I'm gonna mog you, like
shout out Mog.
Exactly. So you have all these concepts, which is what they are. And I think after Pump Fund, in my opinion, we've done everything.
Yeah, man.
There's nothing like everything you see now. It's like, oh, Trump, Musk, this.
Yeah.
Blank with blank. That it's like creatively, what's left to do? And I think like my take is that Fartcoin is the final meme coin because it's like it is the most pure distillation of what meme coins are supposed to be. It's hilarious. Any normie you say Fartcoin to, immediately they're just like they burst out in laughter. It's like clockwork. No matter who I say it to,
burst out of laughter. That Joe Rogan reaction, like that clip that went viral of him
laughing at Fartcoin, that's like the universal reaction. So like, okay, it's the funniest thing,
right? Then you have like, okay, it's like
literal vaporware, right? Literal vaporware. Like the name is saying what it is, and
it's
I like that. It's shit.
Exactly.
It's like nothing.
It's shit. It's literally it's hot air.
It's less than shit. It's gas.
Yes. Yeah, it's the gas that comes after the shit. It's hot air. Like it's
when I saw your thesis on that, it made me heavily regret fading it. Because funny enough, I didn't get the coin. I didn't get it. And once I heard it was that video you showed where they're talking about rap.
Yeah.
And exactly the same thesis. And I was like, fuck's sake, that video was good, dude. For anyone that hasn't watched that video, go to Atareh's X. It's near the top, if not pinned. There's a great chat. Atareh, who is it? Who's talking there? It's
so that's on the Flagrant podcast, and that's a music artist, Russ.
Yep.
And actually that's actually from 2023, I believe. So that's an older clip, but that's funnily enough, I've been meaning to write that thesis for like 6 months at least now, or like 4 months, call it, right? Of like using
what he talked about, because that clip stayed with me where he was like,
think of
music as concepts,
and each artist brings a concept or a perspective, and that ushers in like a new perspective. And so I never thought about music like that. It's like, why do some artists get big? And it's like, oh well, that gives you the CEO perspective. You have like the artistic, you have the emotional perspective, like all these different artists. And so that parallel to me with meme coins and Fartcoin just made complete sense. And I was like, okay, there's something here that hold on one sec, my phone's make sure my camera doesn't die. Okay, we should be good. But yeah, like I thought that was like such an interesting
way to look at music, and then to me the memes felt exactly the same. And
yeah, like that's where
that clip came from.
Well, with that in mind, because I really like that. I think it's great to use a real world example that's further ahead than meme coins for one, because it can kind of give you an idea of how it might progress. As crazy as that sounds to put the two together, but it's kind of, for me, I think it's right because it's irrelevant what the topic is. It's cycling. So when I saw that from you, I was like, holy shit. So with that in mind, do you think then meme coins, where do they go from here? Do they culminate in a massive pump for the main ones and 99% die, which I think we can all agree that probably will. What do you think happens from here with meme coins actually? Where's the progression? Is there more, or is this it? Is this the top?
Yeah.
No, I
think there's two ways to look at a top. And actually here, I'm going to turn my camera off for a sec because I want to make sure, because I'm using my phone and it just gave me a little battery warning. I want to make sure I don't phase out. Come on. Okay. You might actually just lose me. I should be good for like another 5 or 10 minutes, but then you might actually lose me in the video. But we'll just
I'm gonna pop it back on. Okay, so here's what I think. I think that like I don't think that necessarily when I say top, like meme coins have topped. I think I'm saying conceptually. I think we've topped. So conceptually, in the sense that like I don't think that there's going to be a new concept that people are going to be like, wow, we've never done this with a meme coin before. I think we've kind of done it all, and there's always exceptions. There could be something, but I don't think that like the financial nihilism meta is done, because I would say maybe it's more that than meme coins per se, because meme coins even themselves have so many different categories. You have AI meme coins, which was last cycle. Now we have meme coins, and this is I think the next meta that is unfolding like just right now in the last few days or so. And I think this could be like a big one, because I'm seeing a lot of different people say the same stuff now. So it's like the companies on the blockchain with like launch coin, and we can talk about that, because I really think those are going to start cooking. But I think like the financially nihilistic meme coins, I think those are going to rip in this in the sense that the quality. So the fart coin, Doge, Pepe, Mod, like the ones that are established, I think we're at the point where those are going to rip, and they could go beyond all-time highs, all that stuff. But I don't know if we're necessarily, or it's going to be very difficult for like a new 0 to a billion runner to show up. That's just what it feels like to me, because we've kind of done the pump fund cycle of like every new launch for every new like news ticker, this, that, and the other. So that's kind of how I see it playing out. And then what I'm really excited about is like this launch coin companies on the blockchain, what people are calling it, like this meta, because it's a continuation of Vine. Actually, so here let's jump into this, because do you remember DJ Harambe?
Yeah.
Meme coin super cycle, and he talked about that with Pepe, right?
Yep.
And the way these things always work is that you have when a bull cycle is ending, you have one thing that comes up at the very end, makes a little bump, and then it goes away, right? So 2017 NFTs at the very end, tail end, and then bear market happened, and then the biggest thing in 2020, 2021 was NFTs, right? Meme coins, Pepe, in the bear market, went to a billion, and then crashed for quite a while. And then when the meme coin super cycle happened, that was the hint that, it's going to be meme coins next. Yes. I think because cycles are so out of whack now, I don't think we're in the same bear bull situation anymore, because of Bitcoin being, tied to global money reserve. But what I think, this like literally just hit me right now. What I think is happening is, and I wrote about it, but remember a few months ago, I had made a call that let me try to get it actually, because I just tweeted about it. But I made a call where I said, on January 29th, here's what I wrote. Actually, I'm gonna just share my screen here. So here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so it says, you'll have to,
yeah, that should work now.
So it says, when POTA struck the meme coin, it was a signal to everyone else: meme coins are not securities. You are safe from SEC persecution, and anyone can launch a coin now. That's what I saw after Vine Finder launched it. And so when Vine launched, I said the last thing is, I don't think this is a nostalgic app meta, which is what some people thought it was. I think it's a legit tech founders can and will launch meme coins meta. And after Vine, we had Jelly from the Venmo founders. Now, if we use that same analogy of like, the thing at the end of last cycle makes a little bump, and then things go to shit. And then when the new liquidity is ready, that's going to be the main thing. What we're seeing right now is, if I go back, what I think is going to happen is, the startups on the blockchain started after Trump made meme coin and opened the floodgates for anyone to launch coin. First it was Vine, then Jelly. Now many others are coming, from Dupe to Fitcoin, all powered and launched on Launchcoin, Believe that by Pasternak. And I'm seeing a couple other people that are launching, like Bags.fm. I believe his name is Jake Finn. He's launching a launchpad like this for legit tech founders to come launch a coin to help fundraise, create a community. And I think this could be like a really big meta for this cycle of liquidity. In that same, like, there was a little bump with Vine and Jelly, went to shit. In the same way the NFTs bumped, went to shit.
Yeah.
Pepe launched, went to shit, and then resurged. So that's what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. Atareh, how long has your camera got left, man? I just want to make sure I'm
Probably a couple minutes. We're in the
okay.
tail end. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I wanted to look, first of all, great chat, but I also want to do, and I have linked it in the comments. On your link tree, you've got some great articles. So I just wanted to point that out to everyone. One of your articles before I go, which I thought was great, was where is it? Memecoin networks got faster than NFTs, which is kind of what we're talking about now. So for anyone listening, I'd highly recommend you go and read that. There's some other great articles on there you've written. Before I let you go, is there anything you're working on at the moment, Atareh, that you wanted to speak about very quickly, or that you're excited about, or anything that kind of in the space that I guess you're excited about, whether you're building or not?
I think personally, I'm really experimenting a lot with AI, and so this summer, I'm gonna be working out of like some like studios or whatever, where I'm gonna just I want to become like a world expert at like building apps with AI. That's the goal this summer. At the same time, I think as of this week, with markets coming back, I'm really excited about the meta that I just spoke about. I think it's something that I thought about in January. We saw a little bit of it. Things are the shit, and I really think that we're at a time where it's like there's been enough space in the market, especially for founders out of Silicon Valley, to be like, okay, we can launch coins. Yeah. How do we do this in a way that's interesting? I think there's gonna be something really cool that's gonna happen in the next, like this summer. So those are the two like themes for me this summer that I'm paying attention to.
Hell yeah, dude. Look, before your camera dies, first of all, man, thank you for joining me, man. You're a great guy in the space. Like I said, I want to get more and more people on here that have got, that are building, that are doing the right things. Yeah. We spoke offline. I want to give people a microphone that I think, first of all, act right, have good intentions, and people that I think want to leave the space better than when they came in. And look, shout out to you, dude. You and I have been friends for a while now, so appreciate you jumping on. Appreciate you also just being a person that I think people can look up to in the space. We need more people like that, rather than people looking up to people that are extracting from people. So shout out to you. Shout out to you for the Farouk interview. For people that haven't seen that, go to Atareh's on his X. It's on there. It is a banger interview. It's one of the best I've seen. So shout out to you, brother. And again, yeah, bro, I would love to get you back on here and digest more of the markets. We'll do it again. And any last words? Any last words, Atareh? Any last requests before you go?
Last word, I would say let's come back in like a few weeks, a month, or a couple months, and let's see if the prediction holds true, if this meta becomes the meta, because I'd be really excited to dig into it, and hopefully it does, because I think if it does, then we're gonna have a lot more digits in our portfolio. So.
Fuck yeah. All right, brother. Well, we will catch up soon enough. I want to say thank you to everyone who tuned in. We've got about almost 300 people watching us now. So but almost 200 X, which is great to see people come back to the market. And look, great that people got to hear you. So again, thank you for your time. Thanks to the viewers. And Atareh, we'll see each other on the timeline, my bro.
100%. Thank you so much, Craig.